It's nice now there are more women in analytics, and it's nice to see that. So really, and the other thing I love about analytics is that it's a major, it's a really interesting combination of skills. Because you have to be kind of geeky. I mean, you have to do all the techie stuff. But you also have to be creative. Because the thing for me about a really good analyst is not that they can present the client with a load of dashboards, because anybody can do that. The point is, so what? So what are you seeing here? What does this tell us? What can we do about this? What can we do differently? I don't think AI can do that yet.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttmann. We are here to explore some very interesting topics, which is digital marketing strategies and analytics for independent hotels. So I'm very thrilled to have Philippa Gamse, a renowned digital strategist, to share her insights on boosting sales, revenue, and guest engagement. Get ready for actionable tips and hidden gems to elevate your hotel's online presence. So welcome, Philippa, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes. Good morning, Sam-Erik. Thank you.
So first, we're interested to understand, and for the audience to get some background about your fascinating career in digital strategy and analytics. So could you walk us through the key milestones that shaped your professional journey?
Actually, I have been around for a while, I should say. So it's fun to have been in this industry for a while, so that you can see the trends and all of the stuff that works and doesn't work. This industry has a fascination with bright, shiny objects, I think sometimes, and all the things that were like bubbles that went away again, as opposed to what's enduring and how it's developed. So, and because these days we have AI, which is very interesting. And I've been sort of talking about AI and analytics and how what's that going to do. So we might chat about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about analytics, so I've been doing analytics for quite a while as part of consulting and digital strategy. And one of the things that honestly is, especially when I started, there were very few women in this aspect of the industry. And I kind of felt like that was sad, because I think women have a lot to offer. And sometimes, if you think about things like hotels, we might have some different perspectives on what the guys want from the hotel. But it's nice now there are more women in analytics, and it's nice to see that. So really, and the other thing I love about analytics is that it's a major, it's a really interesting combination of skills. Because you have to be kind of geeky. I mean, you have to do all the techie stuff. But you also have to be creative. Because the thing for me about a really good analyst is not that they can present the client with a load of dashboards, because anybody can do that. The point is, so what? So what are you seeing here? What does this tell us? What can we do about this? What can we do differently? I don't think AI can do that yet.
No.
And so then you have to get really creative and say, hey, what about if we could try this? And I've been able to do that with some of my clients and make some interesting and significant changes. So that's something I really enjoy is as I said, a mix of being a geek and being kind of creative at the same time.
Well, that's very interesting. I like the aspects. I mean, first of all, I'm coming from Finland, and we have a lot of very creative executives, and I'm proud to say many of them, and most of them I work with are women, and who are bringing a very different aspect sometimes to the industry. And we finally see also in the hospitality industry more general managers, women general managers who understand the emotional qualities that is necessary, not only the hard facts. And and even more important, that you are perhaps a pioneer in your aspects of the business. And so I'm sure you have many of the young professionals and who are looking to somebody who has to look up to somebody who has made it in this career. So I think that says something about what you're doing. So I just want to say that as a comment that since you mentioned it. But I also want to ask you about, you mentioned of course there's that geeky side of them, but the creative. Can you just share maybe a couple of examples that you have been part of? So then so we understand what you mean by being creative.
Sure. I mean, well, for example, and not necessarily from the hospitality industry, but honestly, I actually think that it doesn't necessarily matter what industry it is if you can take the idea and adapt it. Um, so, well, just an example. I was working for a lawyer who was an employment law training company. She headed up, and so this company, what their business was actually going into big Silicon Valley technical companies and training their employees and the management team in creating a fair workplace. So that meant sexual harassment prevention and stuff like that. Um, and but on her website, so content really helps on a website, right? Because it gets you to appear in search engines. It gives people an idea of what your business is like, who you are. And again, we're talking about independent hotels, right? So who runs the hotel? Who's the host? Who are you going to meet? That kind of stuff, right? Who's the chef? What's the chef really great at? And stories really help. But of course, for a lawyer, what really helps is expertise. So she created a huge amount of content on her website about employment law and how it applies. And then we looked at the analytics and we realized from searches that people were doing once they got to her site and so forth, that what was happening was that a lot of employees were coming to the site with questions like, I think I'm being harassed, is it legally harassment, right? Or I've just been fired and I think I was unfairly terminated. What can I do? Now, those people are absolutely never going, they're not her clients, right? They're not her target audience. They're not going to buy a custom corporate workshop. But there were lots and lots and lots of them. And what we did was say, you know what we could do? We created a number of different ebooks. So an ebook is basically just a PDF file that you put on the website. And we created a range of them. So there was one that was aimed at question, am I being sexually harassed? And it was an impulse buy price, like something like $15, right? Because the premise was, look, a lot of what you think of as harassment is actually not legally. So before you go and consult an expensive lawyer, work through this checklist to see if you might have a case. And obviously it had legal disclaimers all over it,
Yeah.
But and we did one for I'm being accused of being a harasser. What do I do? Again, we did I think I might have been unfairly terminated. I think I should be getting overtime and I'm not, all of these different kinds of things. And we also did a couple of bigger manuals for employers. Again, not big enough to hire her, but, how to, like a sexual harassment program manual or a fair dismissal or whatever. Anyway, and these are ebooks, which means that somebody can come along and put in a credit card and download the file immediately, and nobody has to be manning any sort of actual manual process there, right? It's all automatic. And people came. It was amazing, actually. I mean, this little thing ended up making several $1,000s a month, which obviously paid for itself several times over, and kept people coming to the site. And people started saying, how is it that I hear you're making money while you sleep, which is kind of but so information actually on the web is something that you really can monetize if you have a creative idea around doing it. The secret there is to look at who's coming to your website and what their characteristics are. And if they're not, there are several times when I with clients have looked at, these people are not my core market. They're probably not going to buy my core product, but are there any other products or services that we could create to sell to them?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the question.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's actually very good the way you put it, because I think this is clearly overlooked, and particularly in the when the example about the legal services, which maybe is totally out of reach for for many people who are who may have an issue. So I mean, this simple ebook provides so much information that will help them, and it gives also a positive reputation to the lawyer in question. So I think that's a very valuable
Well,
in many ways.
I'm just thinking about this actually off the top of my head. If we go
Yeah.
to your audience, so maybe some of your so your audience is independent hotels, right?
Yes.
Maybe some of them have a really nice restaurant. Um, so, for example, you might say, what about people who come to find a good restaurant? And it's not them that's going to come to the restaurant, but they're looking for a gift, for their parents or friends who live in the area. And so, you could sell gift cards
Yeah.
to the restaurants. And, do you do that on your website? If you see a lot of people coming from out of the area, and you can start telling from the trends, is it that they're looking to actually book a stay at your hotel, or is it that they're actually looking for something in the area of somebody else?
That's right. Okay, very good. Uh, Independent hotels often have more flexibility in their marketing than big chains. Can you share some maybe some strategies that you may have seen that small hotels implement successfully? I mean, you already mentioned some examples of what hotels can do, but anything else that you could maybe that doesn't relate it to the hospitality, but we can just draw a parallel on that on that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember actually some years ago, I used to do a lot of traveling. And I remember the big chains, um, because I was in all of their loyalty programs and everything. And then they used to send me, and I was doing a lot of traveling. And so the last thing I wanted to do most of the time when I was at home was to travel, right? And some of the big chains, I live in California, and they'd start sending me these emails with, a holiday break in Orlando. And honestly, Disney World is not my thing. and and I don't want to travel from California to Florida, particularly when I have to do that a lot for business anyway. And Kimpton, I remember Kimpton really impressed me because Kimpton sent out an email that said, tell us a bit about you specifically, right? This is personalization, which is a big trend. Tell us what's really important to you. And they asked really intelligent questions like, for example, do you travel a lot by yourself as a woman? And if so, would you like a woman only floor in the hotel? And of course, the answer, and a woman only lounge, right? And of course, the answer is absolutely. you know, where do you like to travel? What kind of holidays do you like to take? Do you like wine tours? I mean, what would you actually like us to tell you about? And it
Yeah.
was such a great approach. I really appreciated that. Um,
Well, yeah, I see that also. I mean, particularly the change like Kimpton is a very good example of, and also the new smaller chains that have has not necessarily part of the large hotel management companies, but they start on their own, and they have a very fresh outlook. I mean, they're purely the only interest is that what you would like, because then they try to develop a service and a product around it. And as long as it fits maybe the lifestyle that you represent. One example is a brand called My Habitas or Our Habitas, which is a lifestyle brand. And they have a very interesting approach to resort and kind of wellness. And because this is what people are looking for. Typically, maybe a larger standardized chain, they give sort of the standardized offers,
right.
the spa packages without actually asking what the customer wants, but just give you the list to choose from. But the smaller ones, they're making a lot of effort to find out really what the customer wants. But how can one, on just from the analytics point of view, find out a little bit more about the customer? Or is it possible that you can also by studying the information that you as a consultant do to actually pick something out of those things?
So we have two types of analytics, as we call it. So there's the numbers, which we call quantitative, and that tells us how many people come, what pages do they look at, where do they come from, how long do they stay, what kind of, which forms do they fill in, what content do they consume, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't tell us why they do that. And I actually often do have these conversations with my clients. The why is what we call qualitative analytics, right? Which is where actually, I remember actually one of my clients literally said to me, "You mean I have to talk to my customers?" And yes, because you actually, customer surveys are actually extremely helpful, right?
Yeah.
Or even talking to the customers while they're at the hotel or whatever. Like, what was it that brought you here? What are you really enjoying? What are you not enjoying? And I mean, reviews, I don't know, I always am a little suspicious of reviews. Typically, people only write a review if they're really, really impressed or they're really unhappy.
Yes.
Right. So the people who had a very nice time and they would probably come back and it was all great, are probably not necessarily going to write that review. Right. And that's most people.
Yeah.
So, so really talking to people and saying, what do you need to know? I mean, I don't know, as an example, I live in California, but I'm a Brit and I love to go back to England and go out. I love walking holidays, right? So go to an area of England where there's really good walking, which luckily we're very blessed. There's quite a few. And look for what I love to do is stay at a pub, a country pub, with really good local food and really good hiking. But what I want to know when I go to the website to do my research is, I want to see your menus because we're vegetarian. And I want to know that you've got some creative vegetarian food and not just, veggie burgers, because I'm not going to eat a veggie burger for several nights in a row, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a difference to where I'm going to book. And the
Yeah.
second thing I look for, that last year we went to the Peak District, which is in Derbyshire. It was lovely. And I really love the way that the pub, yes, they've got pictures of the bedrooms, but they've also got descriptions which includes things like, warning, this room is over the bar, and on Friday and Saturday nights it can be a little noisy until we close. Well, I mean, that's the sort of thing that's really helpful to know, right?
Yeah.
So which room, like, we always honestly prefer a quieter room. So which room is likely to be the quietest, so that when I book the room, I don't just want to know that there's a coffee maker and Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
right? I want to know stuff like that too. And I think if more hotels could kind of think that way, like, real people, these are the real questions that they ask, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Those are very good, very very good examples, and I love the idea that you're when you go into research on a website, you actually try to find out exactly what they can, on top of the standardized information they can provide, and that good example of that the place that you're looking at, that where the location of the room might have some impact on Fridays and so on. That's very good. Many independent hotels find digital analytics overwhelming.
Yeah.
How do you simplify this for the clients, and what are the first steps they should take? And I think maybe the question is that is it worth to hire a consultant to help us with analytics?
Well, of course, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, of course.
But no, absolutely. I mean, look, you have a website, right? That means that you've spent time and resources on building a website, and that website probably is pretty critical to you in getting business. And we all know that people, hotels, obviously prefer to be booked directly than going through, Yelp and Travel and all that, the TripAdvisor and so forth, because they're paying the commission there, right? So if you can get people to come directly to your website to book, that's your ultimate goal, right? So you really do want to know how well are people interacting with your site, how easy is it for them to find things. If they get to a point where they're interested in actually making a booking, how easy is it to do that? Are there places where they get so annoyed by the number of questions that you're asking that they go away, and they don't complete? Which pages, like, maybe you have some video of your site or a page, photo galleries, etc. Like, which of your content clearly moves people forward in the process, that makes them actually put in a booking.
Yeah.
And the analytics can be extremely helpful for that. And at the same time, yes, it can be, when you first look at the interface, I mean, there's no question, it can be extremely daunting. And in my opinion, as the business owner, this is not your job, and it really shouldn't be something that you struggle with. Um, and hiring somebody who can interpret those numbers for you and make some actually seriously good suggestions, make sure that the numbers that you're getting are real. Because, okay, I actually just did some work with a hotel, in an independent hotel in the Lake District, um, which is also in England. And for example, they were trying to reconcile the figures from the bookings that they were making online to their actual back end booking system. So we should emphasize that analytics, because there are people who block tracking, so cookies, or you don't give your consent to be tracked, your analytics are actually never going to show all of your visitors in reality, because some people simply won't show up in the analytics because they don't want to. But they'll still visit the website, and obviously if they make a booking, they'll still be in your booking records, right? So just to be really clear with people, your analytics should not be your tool of record for how many bookings do I get.
Yeah. So
What it is, though, the reason they wanted me to clean up their e-commerce data, their bookings data, was because it does help us to sort of, as I said, show the customer what we call the customer journey, like which content and which pages are key to completed bookings. So obviously we want to have clean data so that we know when we have a completed booking, and then we can trace that back. So, and also which marketing tactics that we use bring the most qualified visitors. So if we're doing a lot of search engine optimization, typically, usually search engines bring the best prospects because they're actually looking for something.
Yes.
And I see a lot of clients doing social media advertising, and that can bring a lot of people. But if you look at, one of the things the analytics can tell you is how long do they stay on your site. And typically, social media visitors spend a lot less time on your site than organic search visitors, because they may not have been actually setting out to look for a hotel, whereas somebody proactively doing search is in the mindset of, I'm looking for a hotel, right? So looking at which of your marketing channels and your email, so hopefully you have an email newsletter, right? How well is that doing in terms of bringing people back and generating rebookings? So that's why the analytics are helpful, is in telling you what's working and what's not working, sort of along the process of how you're trying to promote yourself.
Excellent. So many independent hotels rely on third-party booking engines, and they pay high commission. And the typical story, when I have done some consultation for hotel owners and developers, when they open the hotel, they say, "Well, I think it's easier for me that I just give it to a third-party booking engine. I allow them to pay the high commission, and I pay the high commission. Then eventually, I will reduce this portion of and rely on direct booking." Your thought, just in principle, is this a wise way to start your business, or should you be more clever than giving your hard-earned money in terms of commission to those third-party engines?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on your level of technical competence, and I mean, you're going to need some sort of e-commerce engine if you're going to take actual bookings online.
Yeah.
And if you go with an experienced provider, at least hopefully they know what they're doing and it's going to work, which is an important consideration. The thing that drives me crazy about third party is that typically what happens is the visitor on your website goes into the third party booking engine to actually make the booking. And that means that your analytics stops as soon as they leave your site. Your analytics stops tracking them. And so everything that I've just been talking about, which is we want to know which marketing channels, generate the best leads and generate the actual bookings and so on, you lose track, right? Because the visitor has gone into the booking engine. Now, that can be got around by adding your tracking code. And again, this is probably why you want to hire somebody to help you get this set up. by adding your tracking code into the third-party booking engine, we can continue tracking the visitor. So then we can get the whole picture of, this is where the visitor came from, this is the content on our site that they engage with, and this is where they completed the booking, right? Or they did not complete the booking. So we know the whole thing.
Oh, very good.
Now, some third-party vendors are really good with that, and they say yes, and they make it easy for you. I mean, it's not technically difficult, but the point is you've got to be allowed to place a little bit of code on their site, on their code that works for you, right? But some, I mean, I have a client right now in the travel industry, not a hotel, but in the travel industry, where the third-party booking engine absolutely won't allow us to put our code. And what's even more worrying is that I can see that they have their own tracking code on the site. And that, in my opinion, is going to lead to all sorts of legal issues, potentially could, because they're taking sensitive information, right? They're taking the person's credit card number and email address and so forth, right? And all the consent that user has given to us, because it's our website, goes into this third party, which is separately tracking that data, and has not, does our user consent, which is in the user's mind coming to my client, go through to the third party? Because the user doesn't know they're on a third party engine, right?
No.
So I think this is, I mean, very dangerous. I've advised my client that, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think this is things that people should look out for when they're using third party engines. Yeah. And I think that if you're doing this and you're starting a new site and you want to use a third party engine, which, as I said, has its definite benefits, but one of the questions I would ask them up front is, can we place our analytics tracking on your site, on your code that you run for us, so that we can completely track our visitors? And if they say no, I would be looking for an alternative.
Very good. I mean, that's a very excellent advice. I mean, what I'm saying is that, and it's really confirming what you're saying, that the guest who stays at your hotel is not they are a guest of the third party booking engine rather than yourself in many ways, because you sometimes don't get any information about them, just that there's a booking made. You don't have any contact details, and unless you then ask the guest that may we have your contact details, or would like to sign up for a newsletter, etc. So, yeah, that's really worrying. I mean, I'm glad you point this out, and I love that idea about the code.
But we do have to add now all the legal and privacy aspects of that too.
Sure. Very good. Guest engagement. How important is it for hotels to engage directly with a guest online, and what are some effective ways that they can do that through from the website? Any thoughts on this?
I think it makes people, we call it the hospitality industry for a reason, I guess, right? I mean, I know that it's interesting. I booked our holiday this year. We just came back. We went to Hay-on-Wye, which is just inside Wales. It was absolutely lovely. And the one criticism I have of the hotel is that I sent them, I mean, I made the booking quite a long time before I went there, and I wanted to know if we were going to get a quiet room, because I didn't, I wanted to request it, and I sent them an email and I never got a reply, which of course doesn't, then of course I'm going, I hope our booking is they've got it, because I've got a confirmation number, but so having a kind of, hey, we're really looking forward to welcoming you on such and such a date, and is there anything particular that you would like, or do you have any special requests, would have been a really nice kind of, and it helps me anticipate the holiday and look forward to it even more, because I know that I'm going to a place where I'm going to get great hospitality. And when we got to the hotel, we did. I mean, it was lovely. But there was just that little glitch beforehand where, and you don't want the guests worrying about, oh no, they've lost my booking.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. One of the topics I want to lean into a little bit is the artificial intelligence and your views, how it is best being used, and how do you see is kind of effective use? Because things are moving very quickly. I'm trying to keep up with what's going on, but I don't really know much. But maybe since you are following this also, how do you see the artificial intelligence impacts and the tools that are available that can be effectively used in this?
Well, so there's a lot of talk, for example, like if you're a hotel and you're writing copy for the website, around room descriptions or descriptions of your facilities or whatever, and there's a lot of talk about having AI write for you. So you could go to an AI tool and say, write me a really appealing description of this room, which features this, this, and this. What I do, I do use it a little bit when I'm writing. But I think what I do is I use it to give me some ideas and sort of, draft something. And I do not use it for final copy because I think it has to have my voice. I think it has to be authentic because most of what AI writes feels like it was written by a robot when you read it, right?
That's true.
And again, especially as we're talking about independent hotels, you're looking forward to meeting the host, and each host is going to have their own personality, and you want that to come through. So I think, if you want help generating ideas for copy, it's very helpful. But I would say, don't let it write your copy necessarily. On the analytics side, I actually have just been asked to help test a tool that's being developed in the UK, and I'm sure there are others that are supposed to help you interpret the analytics.
Oh, I see.
So rather than hiring me, you plug in a tool. And I actually had a discussion with some fellow practitioners last week, and I think the AI tools around the analytics are, they're very good at the basics, which is, how many visitors did we get this week as compared to last week? What were the trends? Did they consume more of a different type of content, that kind of stuff? And it can do reporting pretty well.
Yeah.
And the tool that I'm testing, you can ask questions like that, and then you can say, can you show me that in a bar chart, or can you show me that on a map? And it can do that very, very nicely. And you don't have to know how to make a bar chart technically, because you can just ask for it. But, and I think it's a big but, to me, the skill that I bring as an analyst that makes me more valuable is the so what. So what's significant and important about information and about this information, and what are we going to do about it? Right, which is going back to that creative bit around, what, our social media ads don't seem to be working too well. Is it because the ads aren't working well? Is it, or, the wrong copy? Is it because the target audience is wrong? Or on the other side of it, are there ideas here that we could have for a new product or service or a different market, right? I don't see that the AI, because those ideas has to be in the context of your individual business and your individual strategies. And I don't know that the AI can think about things in that level of sophistication and depth. So hopefully somebody like me is still going to be able to provide that added value. And, if I hate number crunching, so if the AI is going to do the number crunching, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I also see that possibly I'm using the ChatGPT and Copy.ai and so on to just draft some basic structures. But of course, I fill the content with and the narrative with my voice and so on. But I found it can be quite helpful when I asked ChatGPT to single out some keywords I should be using, so it will help the text to rank better on websites. That's one of the, that's what I've noticed. It works for me.
Right. But again, what's going to happen is it's going to generate the ideas, and then you're going to look at them and say, yes, that one, no, that one, not. Right.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely. I think generating ideas and generating draft copy and stuff like that, very helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I have a colleague of mine who is an asset manager, and she talks about in how the artificial intelligence is also coming into the picture and what they're using their tools for. But that's going to be for another episode for my audience. But so it looks like whatever we're talking about, there's always that AI part. But I think for me, I like to turn it around. For hotels, they should be more having intelligent assistants rather than AI, because that's where we should be providing there is always a human voice that is going to be in the front rather than a mechanical copyright and so on. But I think there's been a very nice discussion, Philippa, and there could be many more episodes. But I just have a question for you, audience who would like to reach out to you and even find any particular books you can recommend. I know you have authored books that they should be maybe looking into to read. So could you make some suggestions here for as a final point on this episode?
Well, actually, I'm currently in the throes of writing a new book, and I'm not quite sure. Hopefully, it'll be out in the next few months. I'm very excited about that. And it's actually designed for business owners in a completely non-techie way to talk about some of the things that you should be looking for and how you should be thinking about it. And I hope it will work because I don't think there's anything else out there like it. So the answer to your question is that actually, I'm not sure that. It depends how books are produced. Mine is being produced on demand. The major publishers, one of the issues about writing a book for a major publisher in this field is that by the time it's gone through their whole process, it's out of date. Well, because, things move so quickly.
Yes.
So a lot of times it's also very helpful just to look online there are a lot of people writing about this stuff. My challenge, and the reason I'm writing my book, is that a lot of it is quite technical. So if you're not looking to get into the technical side of analytics, but you want the sort of advice that we've been talking about, like what do you as the owner do, there might be a bit less. One of the books that I absolutely love that's older, but still really packs a punch for me because it's still so relevant, even if the examples are old, is a book called Don't Make Me Think. So Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, Krug, and it's a book on usability. Excellent. And it's an easy read. It's very humorous, but it just makes you really look at your website all over again, going, you know what? Yes, that's ridiculous. I can't believe the page looks like that. So that's a really good one.
Well, and then just to Philippa, is a way to reach you, or are you on LinkedIn or any other platforms?
So I'm absolutely on LinkedIn, and I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Please look me up, and also. My website is websitesthatwin.com. So again, websitesthatwin.com. Hopefully you'll put these in the notes, right?
Yes, I will.
And on the website, there's a free ebook. So it's just a sort of idea generator for you that's absolutely free. And it's about 5 stories of actually client examples from my experience where we've looked at the analytics, found something that we wouldn't otherwise have known, and made significant changes either to the website or to the business based on what we saw in the analytics. And it's designed to give people ideas and like we've been saying, like, oh, maybe I could do something along those lines. So it's completely non-techie. There are no charts or anything like that. But I'm hoping it's helpful to people.
Very good. As I promised in the beginning, you will learn something today from Philippa. She has given lots of interesting information, and I learned quite a bit today also in this episode. So I'd like to thank you, Philippa, for joining me today, and look forward to keeping in touch. Perhaps we can do another episode once we see how further this technology is evolving.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Social Hotelier Show. Make sure to visit our website, The Social Hotelier Show, blueberry.net, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, or via RSS, so you never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we appreciate a rating in Apple Podcast. Or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that will help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.